It was only a few episodes ago that we celebrated hitting 100 episodes by doing a deep dive into our most requested location, Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky. In a strange case of coincidence, Bobby Mackey's location that we reported on closed and now is scheduled to be raised later this year. Next year, we'll see a new chapter at the Old Country Bar with a new Bobby Mackey's set for construction at the location. But before the old building meets the fate of the old 76 distillery, Christina, Jen, and our friend Chris visited the place one last time. Tonight, they are here to share their experiences. Welcome back to Hometown Haunts and to our latest season, season 5 of the podcast. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I am haunted historian, horror artist, and host of the show, Cat Cloco, and along with me on this journey into the unknown are my friends Christina Wald and Jen Kohler, who I now can say are amateur, nay, becoming ghost hunters. Ooh, big
Maybe
twist.
so. Maybe
Maybe
so.
so. Yes. So for some show news and conventions and fun things that we're just going to pop on before we dive deeply into your experiences at Bobby Mackey's. I'm working on a new graphic novel called Dinosaur Necromancer. I'll be at the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland, September 14th and 15th, at Cartoon Crossroads Columbus in Columbus, Ohio, September 28th and 29th, and our third issue of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities will kickstart in October. If you are into ghost stories, creepy cryptids, and urban legends of the Cincinnati region, this is the book for you. It was a comics anthology that Christina and I started back in 2020. But we have all local writers and authors retelling the ghost stories of our area. Christina, your news.
Oh, well, I'm leaving for Romania on Sunday. Of course, I will probably be in Romania when you listen to this,
Woohoo.
but I'll be posting
Hanging out
pictures
with
and stuff.
Vlad.
But yeah, I'll be hanging out with Vlad Tepish. Maybe probably not impaling people. People get annoyed when you go to villages and do that. But
I don't want to hear that news story. I don't want to hear that international news story.
see it on the front page of the Guardian.
Well, they would make front page of the Inquirer. Local resident goes to Romania to impale people.
Local children's book
we might-
illustrator Christina Ward teams up with undead Dracula. Vlad Tepish.
Well, that would actually be more interesting. Like if I was like, with Vlad Tepish the vampire Dracula, that would be people would be more interested in that. That would be more exciting.
Vampires are real, people.
This is starting to sound like a Sims campaign I've done once. So, okay. Keep going.
And if people want to sketch with me, I will be teaching a workshop in Tuscany in May of 2025, which you can sign up for now. And our next Romania trip will be September 2025. I'll have the dates for that later. And I have a new picture book that just came out called Crit, and it's about a hypocrite hippo that's really cute. And then I have another book that's about to come out called The Train Rolls On to the County Fair. So you can read another book to your son that will drive you crazy.
I
What's
like
the raccoon for?
Yeti has brought me a raccoon.
I thought, is there raccoon news?
No.
I'm bummed
this
now.
is not Pawnee, Indiana. It's just I got a raccoon. For those of you that are listening, all of us have animals that are going in and out of our recording studios. I have 3 dogs. One just brought me a squeaky raccoon, and Jen and Christina, you have multiple cats. Christine, I don't
Cats.
know.
2
It's
cats.
cats. Okay.
Yeah, but I kicked them out.
Oh, that was probably smart.
Yeah, that was probably smart. So why does the one named Cat have dogs? That always gets me. Anyway. So we have a 4th member of our podcast today. Kristine, do you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. It's Chris. I have known you guys for a little while now, a couple of years actually. Friend of Jen, who introduced us, and then I've been on the podcast a couple of times before. Yeah, and I don't know what else you want me to say.
We see spooky things together,
We do
and
see spooky things together.
you tend to be the buddy that will go out with Jen and Christina. If it's not Katie, it'll be you to these haunted locations.
Which
So,
Katie was at
because you
this
went to
location,
Taft
too.
Ale House too, wasn't it?
No.
I did not. I went to Arnold's.
That was
Arnold,
it.
yes,
Yeah.
Arnold,
I
yeah.
always
Arnold.
get the bathtub logos mixed up.
Well, you know those
Arnold's.
presidents that get stuck in the
The
bathtub.
bathtub. Yeah. It's
It's
you can-
true.
Katie
anyhow.
was with us this time too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
And a
Oh,
Japs. Or
sorry,
not Japs.
Katie.
Why am I saying Japs? Wait, we just don't know where we've been. Arnold's.
So
Although
many other
Japs is supposed
bars.
to also be haunted, but
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, that's an
people
old
there.
bar. Very
is.
old bar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, have you heard of the legend of Bobby Mackey's at all, Chris, before going? Have you been
Oh,
there
yeah.
before?
I had not been there before. I had heard this. I'm gonna say stories, a little bit. I've heard the fantastical stories of the the reality TV shows, and I remember. I remember specifically. I'm not going to name drop the particular show, but a very popular ghost hunting show, and my husband was really into it, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, the portal to hell!" And I remember I looked at him, I looked at the TV, and I went, "That's total BS." And he just looked at me. He's like, "How do you know that?" And I was just like, "I'm just gonna venture a guess." I was like, no."
I
So
just
I've
love that
always wanted to
reaction.
go.
Portal to hell, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, for him, yeah, he was like, "What?" I was like,
I
"No,
love that that's a selling point.
no."
Yeah.
Well, we have
I
one in
love
Blue
portal.
Ash too, so Cincinnati's
Yeah.
full of them.
Maybe
Okay,
that would be kind of cool if you could teleport from one to the other. Like if you went through the portal to hell in Blue Ash and then would magically appear in Bobby Mackey's.
Wait, wasn't that Jennifer's body? She
The movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
you're right.
That's the
I was
plot.
thinking Mario pipes, but
True.
I thought she was a vampire in that.
Okay, go back and watch it again.
I think she's
I'm
just a demon.
I just remember the portal. They didn't think anything worked, and then it did. And
Yeah, don't remember any of that. I'll go watch it again.
Lord. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had always wanted to go to Bobby Mackey's as an actual bar, and
We never did.
just never did. Yeah, just never did.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, so I knew some stuff. Obviously, when I went into it, I will say I did listen to the Bobby Mackey, 2-parter episode, because I definitely wanted to know all the history behind it. And Kat, I loved it. I was just eating it up.
Oh, thank you.
And
Yeah.
the lady that put on the tour actually said the same things you did. So
Exactly.
that was really nice about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm digging
Yeah.
the happy dance right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. One of the things is kind of, as a trained anthropologist, I'm like, everything that I write down or tell on the show, I have to have a source for. Because if anyone says, "Oh, it's this, it's not that," I'm like, "But this is where I got that information."
Mm-hmm.
So being as authentic as possible is very important to me. So to have someone else whom I don't know say the same things makes me feel very good.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate that, letting me know that I did a good job. I get a gold star and a cookie. But
Yay.
yeah, before actually we move on, I did want to say, because I know we're going to get into this episode, if you want to find us on social media, you can find us at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram and our Hometown Haunts group on Facebook. And if you have a story and you would like to have us read it on air and share it with everyone, please email it to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. And also, to help the show grow, please share the episodes, rate and review all of them on your favorite podcast apps. So that just helps bring visibility to the show. Now with that, Christina, we can stop having your tape constantly go. Thank you. Because it was visible.
Trippy.
Anyway, so can you explain, because I was not able to attend, when did you go? How many people were in the group? And what was it all like? What was the like? Were people genuinely sad that Bobby Mackey's was closing? Were they completely unaware that it's stuffed with asbestos? Like, what was the general mood? Was people like partying? Like,
They were really interested. They were into it.
that's good.
I mean, there was nobody there like making fun of it, or they were into it. Like, there was only one person. There's only one person that like seemed like they were probably dragged there. There's a couple there, and she was super into it, and the husband was just like, "I'm here."
Oh,
Yeah, he's the one that yelled at me about the flash that I was blinding everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't.
You
I
should
mean,
have been
he's just
saying
like, you're
flash.
blinding everybody. I'm like, I don't care.
So we were there on May 4th, which instead of celebrating Star Wars, we were celebrating Ghost Wars or something. I don't know. That doesn't seem to work. We were not celebrating in the traditional Star Wars way.
Force ghosts. You were
Yeah,
celebrating Force ghosts.
yeah, we saw some Force ghosts. That's a good segue.
Yeah.
And the woman that was conducting the tour, she said that this was the largest group that she had in there, and she said that they were getting way more interest in this than she thought.
Right.
And it was one of those things where, again, I don't know why they always have it in the dark, because like there was so much you could trip over because there was debris everywhere.
A couple people did too.
Wait. Let me, because I'm sorry, I was telling my hairdresser about this the other day, and I just died. So I was like, okay, yeah, there was like the obligatory, like, yeah, we're not going to turn the lights on kind of thing. There was also daylight still outside. But I just crack up laughing because she's like, here, let me turn on the lights to the bathroom for those people who needed to go. So she flips on this light, and there's like a dim light that I see from the bathroom. I don't know. I didn't go into the bathroom, but what I really see is this string of Christmas lights. And anytime she said, well, let me turn on the lights, it was the Christmas lights.
Because you could see.
Yeah. But I'm like, that's what you turn on, is a string of random Christmas lights.
That just kind of reminds me of when you're flying, and it's like the lights to the nearest exit will illuminate on the floor on the sides, and it's just Christmas lights.
Yeah. It was weird how they always have these things in the dark. I guess it's for added spookiness, but the place is pretty, I don't want to say it's spooky. It more feels at this point just like a dive. I mean, it's a dump kind of, and since it's been, how many months has it been closed? When did it close? Do you have that on the top of your head, anyone?
I had asked her. Yeah.
Because when you go ahead. Because when you walk in, you're knocked over by the smell of mildew and mold and animal urine.
I have some news for you. It smelled like that when it was normally open.
Yeah. Really? I mean, it was just like
cigarette.
I felt like I needed like some sort of Benadryl or something in there because it was.
And
so
now you know
strong.
why I went to the ER after I was there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I got used to it after a while, but then we left and then went down to the basement, and then it was a whole other new, stronger smells, and I was just like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
But it was too hot to wear a mask, too.
I mean, you could see why they're shutting it down. It's a health hazard. And when the lady was talking about, we were sitting in the place with the mechanical bowl. Remember, she said people felt like they felt oppression in there. And I was like, it's because you can't breathe.
Yeah.
The air quality is so poor. I'm surprised we're not all hallucinating because like it's not good.
Yeah. There was a part where when we went up on stage after that bowl area, and I noticed, I was like, okay, the floor is squishy under my feet, but I see on the dance floor it's hardwood. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking around and I'm like, so I asked her, I was like, why is the floor so soft? And she just kind of looked at me. I was like, well, not as in like, it's decaying and it's going to fall out from under us. But I'm like, it's like super padded. What is this? And she's like, oh, it's the carpet. And I was like, what? I was like, when was the last time the carpet was replaced? And she's like, oh, I don't think he's ever replaced it. And I'm like, so since like the supper club, we've had the same carpet? Because it was like thick.
Was it threadbare though?
We couldn't see. It was dark.
Yeah, we couldn't see it because it was so dark. And then after that comment, I was like, I'm not looking. I don't want to know.
Well, since 1978, that carpet has been sitting there.
I mean,
the same age as us, Chris.
Yeah, but it was like it was like that thick shag type carpeting. This is what like it reminded me of, is like it's all matted down, obviously, by every single thing you can think of.
Beer.
And I'm like,
Urine.
I want to be walking on this right now. Just I was more like ew than I was like, oh. So
well, and in the dance room where the stage was, only half of that room, maybe a quarter of that room was hard floor. The rest of it was carpet.
The stage was even carpet, which I was surprised
which was weird.
by. Yeah.
Wow. So when you did the tour, where did you start?
Front
door.
Front door. That's a very good place to start. And then I assume to the bathrooms and then to the bar.
Yeah, you kind of walk into the bar. We kind of signed in. Was that like, it used to be a gift shop, I think.
Yeah. Where pool tables were in there.
Yeah. So we signed in there, and then she took us on a tour, which started in the room where the performers sang and stuff. And then we moved into the room with a mechanical bowl.
Okay.
And then we eventually worked our way to the basement.
Okay.
And
did you go upstairs to the apartment?
No. I think she would allow you to. She kind of was loosey-goosey about that, but we didn't go up there.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And Chris, did you run into anybody that wasn't a part of the party?
Yes.
Yes.
It did. Yeah. So what was interesting is like I've never been. Okay, so I've already established I've never been to Bobby Mackey, so I don't know the road that we're going on. In fact, like I got us lost when we were trying to get there. But so right before we were coming around this corner, driving, hadn't even seen the building yet, and I was like, what is that taste? This was something new for me. So Kat, I don't know if you're going to tell me if I'm just nuts, because that's fine. But I was like, and I look over at Jen and I was like, do you taste that? She's like, no. Like, it truly felt like I had like burning coal like in my nose and like in my mouth. And I was like, well, at some point I was like, there's pretty bad burning coal around here. I was like, bad. And then and I just felt like I had grit in my mouth all night long. Mm-hmm. And then when we did actually go inside, we go in the door, and then there's like a slight left, and then you go up the ramp into the actual bar. And so this took me off guard. So I was walking, I got about halfway up that ramp, and I truly felt like my mouth was full of blood. And I was like, what is this? I was like, that's like almost like a boxer had been like hit in the mouth, kind of like blood in my mouth. Okay. Mm-hmm. After the grit. And so we get up to the actual, like 2 more steps, and we're like in the landing where the actual bar is. And I see about 10 shadows just all go from the main room area and just like whoom, completely across the whole rest of the entire place. Like, mm-hmm. Which at that point would have been over the far wall by the bowl. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, this is fun.
Yeah, you said they scattered.
That's about right.
Yeah, they did. They scattered. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, right off the bat, I was like, why do I taste this like these different things in my mouth. And even to the fact, like when we actually left and like left the property, I got back to the car and I had some water, in the car. And I was like, I've got to try to swish this out. And I did. And I just kept like rinse and spit, because it was that tangible. So I was not preferring to that.
No, that's a new one.
Yeah.
That's
pretty serious, experience.
Yeah.
No, but tell them why you thought that was.
Which one?
The mouthful of blood.
Oh, well, the mouthful of blood, because so I had listened to the podcast and the history that Kat had, put forth, and I had forgotten about this portion of it until we were at one point sitting in a circle for the first time to do a little bit of EVP on our own, like as a group. And they mentioned something about the previous bar's nickname of the slaughterhouse. And I was like, that was it. That was it.
Yep.
Like it was, like that was like a lot. There was a lot of blood that was originally on that floor down that ramp to the front door to like get people outside. And I'm like, okay, that makes more sense.
Plus you had 2 people beaten to death right outside that door.
Yes.
At least. Yeah, that we know of that actually died on premises. But yeah. So when you were telling me about that, I'm like, well, one, I think you caught whiff of the fires, the multiple fires as you were driving up there, because that entire area at one point did catch on fire. It took out most of the buildings back in the 1930s. And so I wasn't surprised when you said that, but then the blood, I'm like, oh, it's a bloody bucket.
That's what they called it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I keep thinking it was a slaughterhouse, but no.
That's because it was rumored to be a slaughterhouse. But
yeah,
that poor butcher's shack. But the bloody bucket. Yeah, I'm pretty certain. I was like, you probably ran into somebody, like definitely picking up on those vibes, but also so many people were beaten in that building. So
yes, there were.
Yes, there were. It's I wasn't even, when I visited, and this was over a decade ago. It was 11 years ago now. And I wasn't even trying to pick up on people. I was just there to work and do a speaking engagement. And I was picking up on people. And I was like, wow, this is a very active place. But did you go into the bull room?
Yes.
Did you pick up on anybody in there?
Well,
and
that
also,
was an
Jen and
interesting
Christina,
story.
what was your impressions of going in here as well?
Yeah.
Especially after doing the episodes.
Well, I mean, I did not really, Katie and I didn't really see anything. Did you, Jen?
Not really. At one point, I saw there was a red light across the room that Chris and I kept seeing dim and brighten. And I was just like, oh, this is freaking me out. But then Chris went over and later found out it was just the exit sign or something reflecting off of.
Yeah, actually it was off one of the pool table corners or something.
Oh, okay.
It was like a metal bar. And I was like, okay, what is going on? Because this is too like normal and too almost rhythmic for this to be unnatural.
Right.
And so as soon as we kind of broke up, I just beelined it over there and I'm like, okay, what is it? And then it was actually like a shadow reflection of the exit sign that was a piece of the red. Yeah.
And I was full on freaking out inside. I'm like, oh my God, did I just really see my real thing?
Well,
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
They had
that would be a scary place. I'm sorry to have your first paranormal encounter. The place is intense.
They had us sitting in a circle in chairs, and this one girl kept saying somebody kept touching her hair. Remember that, Christine or Chris? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
And you said that it wasn't. Say what you said, because I don't want to take any of this away from. Because I'm setting the stage. We were all sitting in the dark in a circle, and there was one younger girl. Yeah. When I say younger girl, would you say she's like in her 20s or something?
I mean, I would even put her like 17, 18.
Yeah, she was a young girl, and she said somebody kept pulling her hair. Was that what it was?
Like stroking her hair.
Stroking her hair.
Yeah, just stroking her hair. And she had said this, like they had gone over to like one of the back doors first. I just want to preface that because there's a whole row of pool tables along one of that back wall. And she kept saying, she's like, I just feel like somebody keeps like just touching my hair and just kind of like just very lightly petting it. And I was like, okay. And then, yes, during the circle, I was like, that did not, to me, I got the name Robert or Bob, and that it was actually her grandfather. It kind of like, he's been trying to get her attention for a while. And she was finally open to it, kind of a thing. So I think it was happenstance. But yeah, I mean, and what I saw was just, he was really happy that she finally acknowledged it. Oh, she knows I'm here.
Yeah.
Even though she gave credit to other things that, shouldn't have gotten credit for it.
Yeah, it's and that can happen at places when you're doing these kind of ghost tours, and you're looking for that type of experience, I'll say for that. But yeah, you can have those more liminal experiences with members of your own family that have passed on and you don't expect to. And yeah, that's a really good insight. I think something most people don't think about. Kind of like when I freaked out Katie by saying that, what was it, her grandfather
that.
was around.
Yes.
And Katie's like, why did you tell me that? Sorry. I know we were looking for members of the Doty family, but your grandpa just goes, hi, I'm here. So,
well, and I think you both have discussed before, a lot of times when you're in situations like this where people are actively seeking, this sort of thing, like the relatives show up because they want you to see them.
Yeah.
And you're ignoring them and they're hoping maybe you'll see them for this.
Yeah. Exactly. So in the building, were there any areas that you were all attracted to? Or were there any areas you wanted to wholesale avoid?
That was in the basement, wasn't it?
Chris, you raised your hand.
I wanted to see all of it and explore all of it, and there were certain rooms someone wouldn't go in with me.
Let me preface this. I can't stand basements. I hate basements. I'm fairly certain it's, from a very early age, seeing and feeling things and stuff. So no, I don't like basements. But this, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, this is less of a basement and more of like a walk-in barn down there.
Yeah. That's a good way good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you like open the side of, pretty much like this huge panel. It's not even a door. You just open this panel to kind of shimmy your way in down there. And yes, saw the portal to hell. Did. That did not bother me at all.
Which is in the an original 1920s house.
Yes,
that used to be there before they built around it. Huh?
I think it was even older than that. Like,
okay,
whatever that house
original
was.
The building was 1921.
Okay.
What Bobby Mackey's actually sits on now was 1921, and then it was added onto in the 30s and then again in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, asbestos is everywhere.
Oh yeah,
and lead.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
There were, as we have established, there was no renovations after 1978 when all of the lead stuff stopped, and modern safety of interior design. So, I'm not upset this place is being raised, but continue.
No, but what was interesting is like when we got down there, and I was like, oh, like it's a house. Like, okay, it's like this 2-room house. And I will be honest, stepping over the threshold into the door of that 2-room house, I was like, I don't like it in here. I don't prefer it. And then we all got into the main room where the floorboards are pulled up in a certain section, and that's supposedly the portal to hell. As we know, it's really the well. And I'm like, it's really funny when I've told other people, I'm like, yeah, it's an innie, it's not an outie, since it was for the distillery. Like,
I like how
Kentucky's
that's phrased. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, this was an inflow, not an outflow of any kind. But that particular room, I didn't want to turn I literally would not have my back to any of the doorways. And there was 3 doorways in there. And then you have the window frame by the well. I would have rather have had my back to the window than like the stairway to nowhere. And then the little jail room that was back there. Or they actually, but I was like, I don't want to stand in the doorway to that very first room. I did not want to stand there.
Gee, thanks. I was standing behind you right in it.
I know.
You jerk.
You were my shield. No lie.
Tell them about the backpack.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. So, I had a backpack purse that, that's what I use. It's just a little backpack purse. And I had it on, and it was from the moment I actually walked into that front room, across that threshold, it was like somebody was just with the heel of their hand pushing on the very top of my backpack and kept pushing it down, was like weighing my shoulders back, like kept pulling my shoulder back. And I was just like, stop it. And so I thought I whispered it to Jen, thinking like, look, I know it wasn't you, but I was like, if I acknowledge you right now, quietly, stop it, and it wouldn't stop and it wouldn't stop. And I was just like, okay, now you're kind of pissing me off. So it let up a little bit, I will say, but then we did another EVP session a few minutes later where we were all in a very tight circle in that tiny space. And the lady, the host was like, does anybody want to say anything? And nobody said anything. And I was like, I would like to take this moment to tell whoever is pressing down on my backpack to quit. I was very emphatic about it, and it stopped. It was like immediate, lift it off,
nice,
and stopped.
Wow.
I remember that. I remember you kept talking about it, and it was pretty intense for the first part of the time we were in there.
Wow.
Yeah, and there were a couple, the 2 younger girls, they kept squealing a little bit during that session, that they kept feeling things or hearing things.
Well, they said they kept hearing stuff, I think, from the jail room.
Oh.
Well, they went in there and somebody got hit there. Something hit them on the head.
Oh,
remember that?
No.
There were 2 women, because they said, do you want to sit in this prison room or whatever, where they used to put people, I guess prison room wasn't the word they used, but it was like some sort of.
It was a jail.
It was a jail.
Yeah.
It was the jail. The house
and
jail.
so 2 of them went in there and sat in that chair. I don't know, if they were both standing in there, if one was sitting or one was standing, but the one woman that came with the reluctant husband said that something tapped her on the head. And they both had felt something in there. But I remember most distinctly her talking about being hit on the head.
Okay. That's interesting.
And then there was Gollum.
Gollum?
Oh, yeah. The creepy...
Remember, yes. The woman that was running the tour said, was it in the room you didn't want to go into?
Yeah.
She had seen a shadow that looked like a figure creeping over, kind of like Gollum is kind of hunched over. Yes. And
that freaked me out when she told me that.
There was and she said she had seen it, and then somebody that she was taking on a tour saw it, right?
Yeah, a guy saw it.
I don't know if anyone saw it at this one.
No. But there was a table in that room, right? And it liked to be under the table.
Under the table.
Yeah. And would just kind of stare at you. And I'm like, oh, no, thank you.
But she said it would actually rock.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Because that was a room
it would crouch and rock.
Yeah.
Oh,
because that was a room you said you didn't want to go into. Did you go into that one? You went into that one, I thought. What's the room you didn't want to go into that Jen was talking about?
That one. She didn't want to go back in there.
Oh, so you
with a wall of faces. Yeah, she didn't want to go back in there.
The wall of faces seemed very sus, as far as it might have had ghosts in it, but where they were saying they saw faces, I was like, this is like a Rorschach test. I mean, it's no one's
pareidolia.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it
Mhm.
was. It
Yeah.
had nothing, but I mean, I suppose it adds to the creepiness because there was one
Mm.
that kind of looked like a sort of um banshee kind of character fantasy thing, and you would ask me if it, and it did look like that to me. It looked like sort of a watercolor fantasy painting of a banshee.
Mm.
But
Wasn't
I did,
wasn't
I did. Oh, what were you gonna say, Chris?
Oh, no. I was just wasn't that the one that was supposedly supposed to be Johanna?
Yes, and
Oh
I
yeah.
was just kind of like, it's just like you said, pareidolia. I mean, I didn't see. I mean, you see faces and stuff all the time, but it's not a face. It's just your brain.
Yeah.
And
Your
I
brain on
took a
faces.
picture of it that night, and I have a picture of it from 2013 when I was
And we'll
there.
show it. Did it look
And
different?
not really. Surprisingly, not really.
No, I'm not surprised that it looks exactly the same.
Well, you would think there might be more water damage or something. I mean, that place wasn't sealed up tight.
No.
So I kind of expected something to morph a little bit, but no, it looks exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any places that you were drawn to? I know that we said you didn't want to go to, but in the building where you're like, I want to go to the ballroom, I want to go to the stage and stand on some crusty carpet. Like,
Honestly, I wanted to go to everywhere. That's me. I wanted to spend more time in there. I almost got locked in.
Did you
Oh.
really?
Well, yeah, because she was shutting and locking the door as I was
Really? So you
running
were the
out.
last to leave? I didn't realize that because Katie and I walked out. Probably were some of the first ones to walk out because we just we just
You
didn't like
couldn't
the air
breathe.
quality. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, this is
Oh,
good.
no.
Looks good.
I was hanging back trying to take as many pictures as I could. And she even mentioned at the beginning, she goes, I got to count everybody because I'll probably lock somebody in. And Christine looked at me and goes, I said, I won't get locked in. Well, I almost did.
Oh,
Wow.
man, I didn't
Okay.
Well, we
realize
had
that.
another tour group coming a couple hours later. They would have found
Well, there
me.
was people that there was a actual paranormal investigation happening after we left, and you could see that they were set up when we walked out.
Oh.
They would have found Jen underneath the pool table rocking.
But a lot of the people were claiming to see a shadow person kind of across. Like, so when you were in the little house,
Mhm.
there was like a window that looked out into like the main, I guess, room when you walk in. And
Garage.
I guess that's maybe what it was.
Workshop. Yeah.
Well, and there's the room across was the caretaker's workshop.
Yes.
That's where all that was going on.
And her son had brought some friends there. I don't know when it was, and had and said that they saw a shadow person. It freaked her son out.
Okay.
And people said they saw one, but I didn't see it. Did anyone else here see it?
I
they were
refused
talking
to
about
look.
it. I looked, but I didn't see it.
Katie didn't see it.
Yeah, Katie didn't see it either.
Did you, Chris?
So what I saw in downstairs was it was a tall, I mean, rather tall, like maybe about 7 feet or so, very thin, had ratty overalls on, and no shirt. But the thing is everybody has made it like, oh, this is such a malevolent being, and I'm like, to me, what the one that I saw anyway was just hiding, like just kind of like peeking to see what it was, but really just kind of almost it was like of mice and men, like
interesting.
Yeah, it was that like I don't want to be seen because people make fun of me or they want to hurt me or something kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, but what I was drawn to was not the building or any of the rooms. It was the railroad tracks behind it.
Yeah. I was going to say, was it outside behind the building? But
it was, because when we came out of the first floor to go down to the basement, we walked out and I looked over and I see, an entity walking down the tracks. And I was like, oh, hi.
Yes.
So that was interesting. Yeah.
I took pictures of the tracks.
Yeah. I keep saying that if they want their hauntings to calm down, that they need to do some type of garden outside to appease everyone. Because
Mm.
that's
Oh,
what that place
interesting.
dreadfully needs, is
So
some
what
more
will a garden
nature brought
do?
into the area.
Will the garden tell me more? Tell me more about like a garden. Like, what does that do to assuage any sort of spirit?
So this is me. I don't think I brought in this hot take for the actual episodes. So stop me if I'm repeating myself. So when I visited, um I did not sense anything wholly malevolent or demonic in the building. I got a whole bunch of misunderstood people, basically, through time, basically. And they were all piled on top of each other. So when you get a large crowd of people that have been just completely misunderstood, some of them are drunk, just weird misunderstandings happen all the time. So um, I did see shadow people when I was in the workshop area. I had the same feelings you did, Chris, of not wanting to be in that old house, but more for what had happened there, the trauma that happened there, not for any particular spirit to blame. Yeah, the portal to hell, yeah, it's an innie, not an outie. There's absolutely nothing but whiskey and water going through that thing. And upstairs, yeah, I did encounter what I believe was a former showgirl. It was not Joanna. It was just a girl from the 1950s who died, and somehow she's just still there. I don't know why. She looked at me and was just like, "You can see me," and I'm like, "What you doing here? It's get out, leave." But
Yeah.
and then you have a mix of gangsters and people who are gambling and random staff. There's just a whole bunch of people. From my experience doing investigations, a good way of calming people down is bringing nature back into an environment. And I'm going to sound like I'm 3 bottles in. So for our listeners, be prepared. I am a big proponent of talking to the earth spirits or water spirits or plant spirits around, that connecting to them helps guide the human spirits that are stuck there, because some are elementals and they can help guide the human spirits that are stuck. And if
Wow.
you work with the spirits that are elementals of the area, we could call them fae. I like to call them jinn from time to time. You tend to connect better with the humans that are stuck there in some cases. And I've worked with elementals, like green men are probably my favorite to work with. They're so chill. But also like water dryad types. And when you talk to them, you can see how healthy the place is. So for like Sedamsville Rectory, the elemental that is of the earth around it that the building sits on is the most abused elemental I've ever seen. It's identify her as female, but actually they're all non-binary. They just will present in different ways. But she had completely lost the pot on everything. Like the men and the abuse that had happened in that building was so much over time that she had just given up. And that's why hauntings there are so bad in that particular area. Bobby Mackey's is not that way, but they've kind of neglected the environment.
Yeah, it's not
And
pretty. It's
it's not
overgrown.
pretty.
It's a
So
gravel parking lot. Yeah.
it's a gravel parking lot. I remember when I stepped out of it, I was like, this place needs more plants. Like the little witchy witch that I am. This place needs more plants. And what I think would be very nice for them to put on, especially since they've had so many members of the family who made Bobby Mackey's the way it is, into a memorial garden somewhere on the property. Bobby Mackey's first wife can be memorialized there, as well as Carl and all the other entities that have died on the premises, planting flowers in their memory, planting trees in their memory. That would help bring the green men and all that back, which would also calm down and maybe even bring better luck to the area if you bring some more environmental bits back into the environment.
You know what, Kat? I think that might happen after Bobby is gone. Because the next owner hopefully will buy the property. My worst fear, and I said this to the tour lady, that has all these big plans for it. but something's going to happen and it's just going to be demolished and nothing will ever be done again.
Mm.
But hopefully they'll get it rebuilt, and maybe the next owner will do more things like that to honor it, because that's how the people that own Arnold's approach it.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to the owner of Arnold's, and he's just like, I'm just its caretaker. I don't own it. I'm just its caretaker. So
Right.
I'm
That's a good attitude.
yeah, I'm hoping Bobby Mackey's will go that way.
Yeah.
And because I think it's a really good cultural thing for the area.
It is. It's a neat cultural touchstone that desperately needs some just plants put back into it. I sound like Poison Ivy from Batman. Like plants, everyone.
Actually, the thought of earth spirits and stuff is a very like both Native American, but also very folklore of all any old folklore, whether it's Celtic or any pagan folklore or even Japanese folklore, the belief in Gaia and sort of the caretakers of the earth and water spirits and stuff have been around for as long as there's been humans.
Exactly. Like I got to be a part of my host sister's groundbreaking ceremony in Japan many years ago. And one of the first things you do is you offer things to the spirits of the earth saying, we would like to build a house here. Please don't destroy it. Like, and you do different kinds of offerings, and they have to be offerings of value to you, not like high price, like you're throwing diamonds and rubies at the ground and stomping it and going, take it, dang it. It's like, if you have a particular alcohol that you like, share a tablespoon of it with everyone. Like stuff like that. That
It's like leprechauns. We were supposed to put milk out for them.
Yeah. I particularly like libations. I've had good luck with them. I don't drink them. I'm putting them and giving them to the spirits.
That's an interesting thought, because another thing, I don't know if Japan does this too, but I know in China, it's giving stuff to the ancestors.
Yeah.
Is that practice unique to Asia, or are there some other traditions that do that too? Because we talk about like family members like being around people. Can you, if somebody wanted to, can they give some sort of offering to their relatives here?
Oh yeah, no, that is not an East Asian thing at all. Like Dia de los Muertos is all about that.
Where they put the food out for the
and in some cases they literally bring out their dead to share with them.
Yeah,
and there's parts
hoodoo
of Papua
and voodoo religions are absolutely based in the family unit. Everybody being around you. So I think that's just a universal. I mean, we can even say with Christianity, people are like, well, yeah, it's the Holy Trinity and stuff. So I think every religion has touches of it regardless. Into society.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, myself being brought up in a Protestant Presbyterian church, we're a little weird that we didn't do that naturally within the congregation. That was something we did at home by ourselves that we would make up. The only thing that we had was called the blessing of the kirk, which is the blessing of the church. And then we would kind of go back and go, remember when we all came from Scotland? And we wear our tartans and stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting.
Go ahead,
Kristine. I was going to say, when you talked about the ceremony for the house, like a lot of Catholics will bury that statue in there. I think we talked about that recently.
Yeah, we talked about that for the last
episode. We just talked about that the last episode. And it makes me think that, you have these old, and a lot of those traditions in Catholicism are adopted pagan practices. Like pagans did them, and then the Catholic Church said, because I remember there's a textbook, and I don't know if it would ever be approved now, talking about natives in South America, because it's my Spanish class, and they were talking about how they gave offerings to the Catholic Church and to their traditional gods, just to make sure, is I think what it said, to make sure they were covering all the bases. You want to make sure that you're making everyone happy. But
ancestor worship is almost the most human thing we can be doing to honor our dead on a daily basis. And when we say worship, it's not like praying directly to your family to intercede in things. It's just Thank you, Yeti. It's by just acknowledging that they're there, like the gentleman who was pushing down on your backpack, Chris. It's just, or the grandpa that was trying to get his granddaughter's attention. That's that kind of acknowledgement of ghosts exist. They are around. They're trying to talk to you. And by planting a garden at Bobby Mackey's, you're acknowledging these people and some of the really bad stuff that happened even before Bobby Mackey's was even built. So but then the question becomes, do they want to even temper down any of the hauntings there? I mean,
Probably
I
not.
don't think so.
so it's just a suggestion, but it will probably never be listened to.
No,
So,
I think they want to shake up. I think they want to mix up stuff. I think they want it there. I mean, because it gets them talked about.
yes. And I know they're keeping the Wall of Faces, the portal to hell. I believe the jail room is going to be plexiglassed so that people can still see it with the new building.
The
Maybe we
well
sit in it.
will be plexiglass too.
Glasses.
Yeah, and
So are they? So this is a question that I had. Like the actual that 2-room house, I'm like, that's a historic site. In it, let alone with the well down there. So are they? Do you know if they're keeping like that specifically? Or
I can
just
only
this and that.
From the articles that I read, it sounded like for the most part, a lot of that's going to be plexiglassed off, kind of like the Whaley House in San Diego, where large portions of it are plexiglass, so people can't really get in because it's a historical building. In the case with Whaley, it's a museum, but I think that's kind of where they plan on taking this, is to a museum. Because honestly, looking at the property, it would make for a good museum of Newport in Northern Kentucky history, because it saw the entirety of Newport's history happen and the different approaches to life and opinions of the people who lived there. That you had everything from pre-Civil War, during Civil War, post-Civil War attitudes. Then you also had the distillery boom, prohibition, and then dealing with the mob and being Las Vegas before it was Vegas. That's an incredible and very unique history to have. And not always incredible in like it's fabulous. It's like, whew, there's a lot to take in there.
Yeah.
And keeping it as a museum, I think, would be smart. I wouldn't let people into that plexiglass area, but I'm not managing the place.
By the way, they had some supper club dishes in there.
Oh.
In one of the rooms in the basement. I took a picture.
No, I don't think anyone's attached to those dishes, though.
No, but I was interested to see how they looked, and they were just tan and brown.
Sounds
You know,
Yeah, some places
the
some
rim
old
was-
dishes weren't that fancy.
No, I thought they would be, and they weren't. But they were there on a shelf. I kind of wanted to steal one, but I didn't. I behaved.
Please don't, Jen.
I didn't. That's why I took the picture.
So, Chris, did you run into anybody else who wasn't part of the party throughout the evening?
So there was also it was a totally different tall man that was, I don't know if he didn't just scatter, but he wasn't a shadow person. He was like an actual tall, thin person standing in the doorway of the men's bathroom. And Jen, I think I looked at you and I was like, because we were sitting in a circle, I think, at that point. And I looked over my shoulder and I was like, oh, hey. And because everybody in the circle kept saying they could see stuff.
They saw a guy with a mustache.
Yeah,
they saw a guy.
And I tried taking a picture of him, and my camera wouldn't focus.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
He's been reported there before.
Yeah. So I saw him before anybody said anything. But
the mustache guy?
I know the tall, thin guy. The mustache guy, I didn't see. So
yeah, that was just that other lady who said she was the medium.
Saw some guy with a mustache.
Yeah.
And that's he's been reported a lot too.
Okay.
The report is that he is, and I just forgot his name, but he was one of the people that killed Pearl Brian, not the boyfriend, the
Oh.
other dude.
So,
And yeah, that's the rumor. Sorry,
do
Christina, go ahead.
mediums ever see the same person? Like, would it be? I mean, I'm sure that it's like whoever they see revealed, like the fact that this, or could this person, because they knew about this. Obviously, if this person was a medium and was on this tour, might have heard of the sightings of the mustache guy.
Chris, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I don't know that I'm the right one. But I mean, Jen and I did talk about that on the way home. And this was also the same person that was telling the teenage girl or the young girl that that I've got. I'm like, well, that's her grandfather, like right there.
Yes.
But that particular lady kept telling her, oh no, that's one of the spirits that's here. There's this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell somebody else that they're not a medium or they're not sensitive or they're not whatever. I'm like, I'm never going to do that because I don't know what
They're
people feel like.
experiencing.
Yeah. And like
Mhm.
Kat and I, when we got together, you can see things that like I can't, and I know I can feel things that others, other medium friends of mine can't, and vice versa. So I, just like everybody's got their own little talent, like a musical instrument or whatever, I think that it also transfers into this as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was going to say everyone there's kind of different stages of their journey of basically interacting with the dead. Some people are at stage 1 and don't want to leave. Some are like Chris and I, who are happily trotting down the trail, talking to everyone. And then there's some people that are in the middle. And I know when I was really early on and could see people, but I didn't know how to describe or differentiate relationships between the dead and the living and how we were interacting with one another. So I won't say this woman wasn't seeing anybody. I don't know her journey. So I have to kind of go, okay, and take that information and go, sure, okay, that's what she's saying.
Yeah.
I will say when two mediums are on the same wavelength, you kind of get a lot of synchronicity of seeing people and the dead, basically. But yeah, you're right. There are times where Chris will pick up on somebody where I have an inkling they're around, but they're not going to talk to me, but they'll talk to Chris, and vice versa. Or when I'm working with my friend Tiffany, people will talk to her and not to me, and vice versa.
Just
But
like
we
being at
kind
a
of,
party. And
yeah,
sometimes
we're
somebody will talk
aware
to you,
of everyone,
but they may
but
not talk. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's the best relation I can do, is saying, like, if I was there, I probably would have picked up on the same guy you did, Chris, and then handlebar mustache dude could have just been like, I feel as if somebody's here, but I'm not getting a good grip of what or who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So not
Christina,
being there, I can't say, but this is.
didn't you? There was the guy in the bathroom. Did you see him? The one that was beaten to death.
So where the current bathrooms are right now, that's the men's bathroom that I saw that guy in.
Okay.
Where I think if I understood the tour guide right, where the bathrooms used to be, where that gentleman was beaten, all I really got was kind of like shadows dodging around that area. But you know what? I wasn't pulled to focus right over there while we were upstairs because I wanted to figure out she kind of like let us go like on our own after we were doing the circle upstairs. And so I went across to see what that red light was. So I didn't even go into the safe room.
That was
Oh
cool.
yeah, that was a cool room. I got a picture of Katie and Christina behind bars because they still had the bars in, because that's where they kept the money back
Right, yeah.
when it was at the casino, so
Yeah.
it was still there.
I think they're keeping that too, by the way.
I hope so.
That
It's a
is
cool
That was
room.
cool.
Yeah. I didn't, when I was there, I didn't pick up anybody from that room. And yeah, and then also I never went upstairs, so none of you went upstairs either. So
I got the idea you could have persuaded her to let us go upstairs. She was kind of loose about that.
What did they use that for?
Until
it was an apartment.
Tripped. Yeah, because wasn't that where Carl lived? Was that apartment?
Yeah.
But what about currently? Like, did they have offices up there?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And
from what I've seen filmed of the location since 2017, it looks like it's just there and people will use it while investigating. I don't think it's actually used as any formal type of office place. But I don't know. It's with Carl having lived there and the things that he experienced, I think a lot of people are scared to go up there, or they have really weird misconceptions of who they're going to find up there.
I think see that.
Are they? Is she still doing tours? I mean, we could go back.
It's until like the end of June or July or something.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we could.
I mean, you're going to be out of town though.
Christina. Well, I mean, till the 18th. Well, that doesn't keep you both from going back.
No, I mean, I'm not going by myself.
Well, I said you both. I said you both, or you could probably talk Katie into going again too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't have to wait till. I mean, we had to see how long. I think the reason we picked this one because we didn't know how long they were going to keep doing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we wrap up the show, what are your final thoughts of visiting Bobby Mackey's? Does it live up to the hype at all?
I think it does, just because it's Bobby Mackey's, and you go there, whether you believe it or not, you're there to have fun and see. It's a really cool atmosphere, even with all the smells and everything. For me personally, I love that stuff. I love it. And if I could have spent the whole night in there taking pictures, I would have, because all the stuff was still in there too. You know, it wasn't just an empty building, but I mean, the bull was still there. So I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Christina?
I thought it was a really interesting place to go. I think that it has the hype to keep people interested. I mean, I think that they've sort of made this lore so that people spend $40 to look at the place when they're about to tear it down.
Yeah.
I think that the history of it is very interesting.
Yeah.
And the lore on it is interesting because it has very little to do with the very interesting history. And that's sort of my feeling on it. And the idea that they're keeping all of this stuff like the portal and the jail room and stuff means they still want to make money on it. They still want to use that as a tourism point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions whether this will be built, and I'll be interested because they said, you know, Bobby Mackey's 75, and they're like, why is he building this new building? You know, I talked to somebody that used to go there a lot to listen to music, and they were like, you know, why are they doing this? You know, as he gets older. So he must feel like he can make it into something more than what it was. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a dive. Well, more than a bit.
Well, I wonder if there have been any kind of like inspection issues with the building or something.
Well, maybe I suspect that might be one reason they were tearing it down, because the way it smelled and stuff, it feels like that it didn't probably meet any code anymore. You know, he might have possibly anything he wanted to do to expand may not have been able to be approved because they have to update things. And a lot of times it's easier to raise something than to fix it.
Yeah. Yep. And also I want to note, if you just heard a high-pitched little whine sound, that was Yeti, not a ghost.
So obviously Chris has the biggest thing because she actually saw the ghosts.
Well, so my thing is this, like, my overall general impression is absolutely this place is a dive. Dive, I think, is putting it nicely. It really does need to be torn down, just from whatever's growing in the walls. Yes, the health and the floor and stuff. I love that he wants to keep that in the plans for rebuilding it, and whether he's doing it as an homage to the loyal fans that want to, you know, come that, and then maybe the memory of his of Carl and his first wife, or just the area. I think that's a really good thing, and I do think it's a good business ploy as well.
Yeah,
it just is. Overall, I actually found the property to be kind of sad. Like, what I felt the most was the spirits that are actually there willingly. Let me put it that way. The ones that are actually willingly there, not the ones that were murdered. I think those are the people where in life, those were your barflies. That's where they called home. And I think when they passed, they came back to where they wanted to. They came back home. So I just as a personal note, I just find that to be, you know, it's like heartbreaking from a socioeconomic standpoint. But that's where I picked up on, Kat, what you had. There's multiple layers of time of you know, beings that are there. I also feel that because it's been so hyped up and become, you know, legend and, you know, mythos status, that that energy has also been put into whatever, like all the other stuff that's on top of it. And so I think people maybe feel more because that energy ball, like of the living, is put into that, and it just continues to, you know, cycle, and you've got like a big ball there.
Yeah.
You know, overall, I think it's cool stories. I think it's entertainment. I think it's really cool. I do hope that he does rebuild, because, you know, he's getting up there. I hope he's got his estate set out that, you know, even if he does pass, it could still be rebuilt.
yeah.
But I think it's a great legacy. The land around it is intriguing. I would like to learn more about the land around that more as well, especially since I had such a visceral reaction to just coming around the corner. But
you know, one thing I noticed driving there, if you drive from you know, because they've got that new roundabout that you kind of take from Route 8 that kind of goes up to this, they have raised a whole bunch of buildings there. Like, there is, you drive to Bobby Mackey's now, you could tell like a whole street was knocked to the ground very recently and has been made into green space. And I wonder if that also could be something that you were experiencing, because they tore down a lot
Of homes or businesses?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's gone. If
It's
you
kind of a
go,
mix of both.
yeah, I mean,
I haven't been out there enough to know.
I just know
used,
from historical documents.
yeah,
Sorry,
that green
Christina.
space wasn't there. I
Mm.
mean, they've knocked down a bunch of stuff there, and they're doing that everywhere. Like in Cincinnati, they've been tearing down tons of buildings in, you know, OTR, Camp Washington, you know, all of these areas. They're just raising everything. A lot of the stuff was abandoned, but I wonder if that's adding to the mix too.
I really hope they don't do that and put something modern there. Not that I'm against modern, but
They're putting up a lot of apartment buildings everywhere.
yeah, don't do that. Please don't do that. Let Bobby Mackey stay.
I don't know if it will be in Bobby Mackey's. This is like maybe a half mile away.
Well, just
Yeah.
in general,
Like, as you go
I
up.
don't want that to happen to this place. I want this place to, even if I kind of want them to rebuild Bobby Mackey's an exact replica of what it is.
Oh,
You know,
I'm
just
sure it's not gonna
updated.
be
You know what I
that.
mean?
Yeah, it's
With fresh paint smell.
I
That would
was
have been nicer.
thinking what they need to do is modernize it a little bit to the current trend tastes
Yes.
of everyone that lives around there.
Yeah.
Keep the live music, keep even some of the delightful tackiness that is the dive bar. Like
Mhm.
the
Gotta keep it
bowl
full. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
bar, and you want to keep that personality to it because that's really at its heart what Bobby Mackey's is. But maybe
Mhm.
put more microbrews on tap, or kind of,
Yeah.
you got a lot of hipsters that live in that area. Cater to them a little bit more. Maybe put up like a beer garden outside, like
That
do
would be
something like that.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got the gravel parking lots on both sides, so
Yes, he does.
there's room.
There's more than enough room, and
So-
just
Oh, sorry.
it's
Go
no.
ahead. No, so what's up with the railroad tracks? Are they actually still in use?
I believe so. Yes.
Did a train
Are
not
they?
go by when we were there? I thought a train went by when we were there.
There was lots of cars went by. There was no train that went by in the time frame we were there.
I remember hearing a train for some reason.
So
Oh.
there's a lot of rail traffic up in northern Kentucky. I
Okay.
don't remember off the top of my head who owns those rails, but there is between that and the Licking River, there's a lot of traffic. And you
okay.
get a lot of transient traffic spirit-wise.
Hmm. Did I hear
because
a
of both
ghost
of them.
train?
I don't think you
Ooh.
heard a ghost train. Lincoln didn't ride past there, I don't think. But not that Lincoln's ghost train is the only one out there. I think you actually heard a legitimate train. But it's what a lot of the economies, the heartbeat of the towns around there are these rail lines.
Yeah.
Even Bobby Mackey, I think, talked about riding the rails and passing it when he was younger.
Oh, cool.
Just getting from one city to the other, they would just hop
Yeah.
on top and ride. So, yeah, there's a lot. There was a train trestle or a building, the 11th Street Bridge collapsed on itself. I talked
Oh.
about that during the podcast.
Yeah.
That's not too far away from that location.
Okay.
A lot of the men from that are just still in the water, or hanging out on the banks, helping with the very positive feelings that you get when you're in the parking lot. So yeah, and then you also had the slaughterhouse that was located, I think, at one of the southern parking lot area.
Mm.
So, yeah, I have already said my opinion about this place, so I don't think I need to say it again. But yeah, I like to see it stay, especially for the historical
Mhm.
contributions it can make for keeping a lot of the history of the place alive.
Yeah.
In a kind of rhetorical sense, I guess, for the dead. Speaking for the dead, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that place has so much asbestos and lead and mold. It sent me to the ER when I went there. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
see it go. The
Yeah.
original building's not even the original building. It's only like the third. And it's missing an entire wing that went
Yep.
down in the 70s. So yeah, it could have been even bigger. Could have just
Well,
been bigger.
it was a fascinating trip, and if you go out, it
Mhm.
might be interesting again to do another tour. But I don't know how long they're doing them.
I am very curious. Did you see anybody with glowing eyes?
No,
Ah,
No one? Okay.
I
All right.
wish that was like a
You-
'70s thing. The glowing eyes seemed so popular in the '70s. I think it was Amityville Horror.
Oh yeah.
And no spiders bursting out of plants.
Did you see any
No.
spiders? Period.
No.
There were
yes.
probably spiders there, but we were in the dark.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our ability to see much was.
I could smell cat pee.
Mm.
Are you sure it was cats?
That's what I
Or
was thinking. It probably was raccoons or
Could have been.
possums.
It was pee of some sort.
Something was peeing there. Great.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be interesting to talk about sort of what attracts entities to certain places. And I do believe, like what you said, Chris, that the energy people, like when all these people focus on this, having this specific energy, it's not necessarily a portal to hell, but it sort of is like a beacon.
What's
Yeah.
it called? A tulpa?
Yeah,
Like that episode of
create a tulpa
Supernatural?
that way. Yeah, which makes me wonder if the little golem character that they're seeing is
it could
literally
be a tulpa.
a tulpa that they've created of what they think should be haunting in that workshop.
Yes,
That's
that's what it is.
The body language of it is interesting, where it's just sitting there and rocking back and forth. So I'm like, that's a trauma response. That's not I'm going to mess you up response. That is, I want to hide, make myself as small as possible, and rock myself to comfort as a stimming mechanism.
Well, she did say it
Yeah.
ran away and hid under the table.
Yeah, there is so
Yeah.
much drama in that entire location. It is ridiculous. And also going off of what Chris said earlier and what you were just mentioning, Christina, is that this is one of those places where people who are sensitive and are generally closed off will let themselves open up a bit. And that's why we get so much story from there. Waverly Hills is another one. Mansfield Reformatory is another. And Stanley Hotel, anything that is rumored to be haunted, if you're usually closed off and you feel like you should be experiencing something there, you will. Because either you force it upon yourself or you've opened yourself up. Jury's out on which one's happening.
Not
But
me. I shut myself down. Mm-mm.
oh no,
Well,
you did not at the Anchorage.
I
Yeah.
didn't, but at Bobby Mackey's I did because I didn't want to see no big shadow person.
They're really not that scary. They're just very tall.
I don't care.
It's
Yeah.
like me looking at everyone else on a standard Tuesday. So I'm just
Well,
like,
I was thinking about the Benny Hoffman house where she was doing readings on people. Remember when
mhm,
Ashley was doing readings on people, and she was overwhelmed because so many came, not of the
Mhm.
people that were there, but of the spirits.
mhm.
Yeah.
And
like-
is that kind of what you're describing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be very similar. Yeah, because like to point back to that grandpa situation, that young lady wasn't going to normally have an interaction with a dead relative, but would at Bobby Mackey's. But because of the very scary reputation it has with its spirits, she's going to automatically assume that it's a demon trying to pull her hair instead of a relative. So that's
But some
the
attention's better than nothing.
yeah, maybe I guess yeah. So
I will say, you know, this is a bar. It has been a bar, and lots of liquor has flowed through this place for it's basically since inception, you know, almost. And you got to take that into account when you listen to these stories, because yes, every legend comes from some story to start with, but I'm like, there, for example, there was people said over in this one area, which was also by an exit door, they felt like it was like an ocean, and they felt like they were being weighed down, and so people automatically thought that, well, it's like I'm in cement shoes and I'm being thrown off, and I'm like, so I also went over and investigated that area. I'm like, the floor is nowhere near level. Again, the smell of an ocean, I'm like, hello, vomit carpet, not great. And then you've got, so I mean, it's just like there's multiple things. So I'm like, it makes it hard to try to believe a lot of the people's stories when I'm like, there's an awful lot of alcohol flowing, people.
Yeah.
So it's hard to take it for what it is, but it's great stories. It's it's great business too.
yeah.
Agreed.
All right. And on that note, for our listeners, if you have your own Bobby Mackey story to share, you can send it to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com and we'll read it on the show. So
Yay.
I think this would be a great place for us to wrap up for the night. And I want to say thank you, Chris, for joining us and sharing your experiences at Bobby Mackey's, no matter how stinky or heavy it was. I'm actually glad all three of you plus Katie were able to go visit before it was raised. So because that's really you got to see a pretty cool location
Yeah.
or well-known that is an important part of regional history. And also for our listeners, you can keep up with the show at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram and at our Hometown Haunts Facebook group. And for myself, Christina, Jen, and Kristine, or Chris, thank you and good night. Stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.